from Toronto, Canada. You can't take any of this that seriously, even though it's really fun to do it for the moment.
She was born here in Toronto, and tonight she is being mourned around the world. Comedy icon Catherine O'Hara has died at the age of 71. Good evening. From Beetlejuice to Best in Show, SCTV to Schitt's Creek, Catherine O'Hara conquered both film and television.
The iconic comedic actor died today at the age of 71, following what her agents say was a brief illness. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver looks back at O'Hara's life and career.
Do we set the timers on the lights?
Considered a cultural trailblazer and the queen of improv,
Kevin!
Catherine O'Hara had a rare ability to give complex and often eccentric characters depth and humanity. A craft she mastered at the famed improv theatre Second City in her hometown of Toronto. She started there waiting tables.
Want to fall in love?
But in 1974, her love for acting would land her a role on the hugely successful Second City television.
Gonna be a frosty snow girl. I'm gonna deck your halls.
She had no formal training, but O'Hara's enthusiastic spirit and determination quickly made her an award-winning star in Canada.
If you don't let me gut out this house and make it my own, I will go insane and I will take you with me.
Propelling her to international fame with roles in hit movies from Beetlejuice
What the? Are you all right?
to the mockumentary comedy film Best in Show.
I sense there's something in the wind.
And the cult classic animated movie The Nightmare Before Christmas.
My bag! It's gone!
But one of the roles she's best known for, Moira Rose in the hit show Schitt's Creek.
Crocodile bag, the one my mother gave me!
Her performance in the Canadian production was met with critical acclaim and garnered her multiple acting awards.
I would love to stand up here and tell you this was all just a walk in the cake, but it wasn't.
At one of her last appearances at TIFF just 4 months ago, O'Hara thanked her longtime friend and colleague, Eugene Levy.
When I think of my happiest days in this adventure and show business, I realize most of them have been with you.
An adventure in show business that spanned more than 50 years. O'Hara was 71. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
In spite of her stardom, Catherine O'Hara was down to earth and rooted in Toronto.
Never taking herself too seriously, as she made us laugh for decades through so many of those beloved characters. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live tonight with more on Catherine O'Hara's connection to her hometown. Beth.
Michelle, Catherine O'Hara was from Toronto tonight. People are saying they're shocked and sad and saying she is a real loss for our country. From her zany performance in Beetlejuice to her iconic roles in Schitt's Creek and as Kevin McAllister's mom.
Kevin!
Catherine O'Hara lit up the screen, bringing laughter and heart to fans around the world, and right here in her hometown.
Oh, I'm a little sad. Yeah, she was everybody's mom, Home Alone mom, right? Yeah, it was pretty sad.
She's hilarious, and I think we'll all feel a little bit like we're home alone now without her. Yes.
Audacious and vibrant roles in Hollywood made her a household name. But before any of that, she landed a job at the Second City with that notorious crew in Toronto.
She was actually serving drinks when Second City opened and was an understudy to the main stage. And then when she stepped up, she became part of the original SCTV cast. She got cast on SNL in the 80s and stepped away from that to come back and finish SCTV. I know this place meant a lot to her.
It's a place where O'Hara also means a lot to the people now at the Comedy Hub.
She's completely authentic. You can see that in both her eyes and her voice. She had a voice that wasn't compromised in any way. She had very acerbic wit. This combination of being both warm but also like there's a cutting edge to it.
And is being remembered fondly around the GTA.
How does someone last 5 decades? You know, authenticity, reinventing yourself, staying current, and also just being very consistent. Catherine O'Hara is that, and also being a good person.
We were lucky to have Catherine come and speak with the students a few years ago, and I was struck by how modest she was. Because as a critic standing back and looking at her career, she was phenomenally funny, extremely talented, and very, very skillful. She was someone who really understood how to be funny.
I've often heard people say they're humbled when receiving an award, but I'm not so sure that's true. My head is getting bigger as I speak.
As people learn of her passing, people in Toronto are shocked and saddened.
It's a tragedy. For Canada, it's a big loss. For our country, she was a stalwart kind of actor. Yeah, we lost a good one this time.
At 71, O'Hara was still very active in her career, and tonight people are saying it's very sad to lose her at this time. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Natalie, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. More news in a moment, but first let's go outside for a live look at the city on this frigid Friday evening. The sun has set on a bright and beautiful day, but it was and is so very cold out there. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jess, we all want to know whether we have a warmer weekend ahead.
Not really. It is warm adjacent. I mean, we are in the end of January. These temperatures aren't entirely unusual, but they are very much unwelcome. It is icy, it is cool, it is frosty, it is frigid, all the descriptive words you can use to say how cold it is out there. And we remain under that cold warning, that yellow warning. It is going to be frigid this evening, so take care if you are planning on heading outdoors at all. Right now, pretty much between that kind of -9 to maybe -17 range when it comes to our base temperatures, but you factor in those wind chills, and it is still very, very cold out there this evening. Maybe the saving grace is it's not terribly windy, but overnight, that wind chill -25. Coming up, your full forecast, but right now, back over to Natalie and Michelle.
Okay, thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
And of course, it was not only cold this week, it was wintry all round. Last weekend's record-setting snowfall still slowing down the city.
But Friday is not the finish line for crews who have now spent the week tackling the mountainous task of clearing all of the snow. CTV's Allison Hurst has the latest.
Sinead Boyle walks dogs most days and says since Sunday's record-breaking snowstorm, she finds getting around has been a challenge.
The sidewalks are a mess. It's been days since our snowfall. Sunday, Monday, and this is now Friday, and the crosswalks aren't cleared. The city is really letting down people in terms of accessibility.
The sidewalk she's on is part of her regular route in front of Dundas Junior Public School that has not been plowed.
It's worse than last year for sure, but it just feels like we had one big dump of snow. There's no reason that there hasn't been any improvement all week.
Snow removal is underway. City crews are targeting residential streets as well as highway ramps, bridge decks, and hospital routes.
We've removed 65,000 tons of snow already, as of yesterday morning.
Signage is going up, warning of temporary no parking for snow removal, where city staff plan to target in the next 24 to 48 hours. Still, some Toronto residents feel it's not going fast enough, with mounds of snow partially blocking major downtown streets.
This isn't bad. I'm pretty sure they were not prepared for this.
Worse than last year. They said they were going to fix it. They haven't done it. Around the school, over by Moss Park, sidewalks haven't been done. They're doing a poor job.
I don't think it's prioritized properly. Obviously, the school zone needs to get done. And then obviously residents need to take more care.
Where Boyle says attention needs to be spent is on making the city accessible.
It's really, really hard to get around, and it's not okay for people who have strollers. It's not okay for people who have walking aids or anything like that.
Over the weekend, crews will be targeting school bus loading zones for snow removal. Allison Hurst, CTV News.
Out on the roads, OPP say they arrested an impaired driver who passed out behind the wheel in the middle of the highway. This happened around 11 last night in the westbound lanes of Highway 403 near the Link in Hamilton. Police received multiple calls about a stopped vehicle, and they say when officers arrived, the man in the driver's seat wasn't responsive, and they had to break the window to gain access to him. Then they charged the 23-year-old from Kitchener with operation while impaired, suspended his license, and impounded his ride.
And take a look at this. The OPP's Niagara detachment started getting calls just before 3 a.m. about a set of dual wheels sitting in a lane on the Fort Erie-bound QEW near Glendale. Officers say they soon found a disabled tractor trailer nearby. The 22-year-old driver from Brampton faces charges including unsafe operation of a commercial motor vehicle. Still to come tonight, Canada's jet exports up in the air. Bombardier stocks dive as new Trump tariff threats get off the ground. The aviation impacts just ahead. But first, for the final time this morning, night shift workers at Oshawa's General Motors left the plant.
The third shift has been eliminated as of today, but the fallout from the move could continue for some time. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports.
In the dark of early morning, the night shift at Oshawa's General Motors plant heads home for the last time. 500 people out of work as their jobs shift to the U.S.
Members are scared. The morale's terrible in the plant right now. You know, they're worried about how they're going to pay their bills, provide for their families.
Unifor says with the elimination of the third shift, another 500 related jobs have been slashed.
We have a plan.
The Premier promised yesterday
We're going to make sure that they have opportunities in the defense sector, life science sector.
People don't want to be retrained. They want to make good money in the auto industry right now.
Speaking with other workers in London, Ontario's NDP leader calls the loss of the third shift in Oshawa devastating and frustrating too.
Some of this, we've seen this coming, and I'm concerned that the government has not acted with the urgency that it requires.
Calling for a different approach to keep auto workers on the assembly line.
But we can't expect manufacturers to produce in this country when we have a completely uncompetitive environment.
From Oshawa, a plea to find a path forward with a neighbor.
We need a trade deal with the United States of America, not China, not Korea.
Not encouraged by the possibility of foreign-owned automakers opening plants in Ontario.
It's not thousands of people. They come in crates, they come in boxes, and people just plug things in.
A new auto strategy is coming in a matter of weeks. The Premier says it must include backing off the EV mandate that so far has only been paused. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
One person is still unaccounted for after a fire this morning in Colborne. Northumberland County says first responders were dispatched soon after 4:10 a.m. to the fire at a seniors apartment complex. They worked to get everyone out of the building, but say one tenant could not be located. 4 other people were taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries, 1 tenant and 3 firefighters. Police say the Ontario Fire Marshal has been notified and will be investigating. So far, there's no word on the cause.
A 29-year-old woman is dead after being struck by a truck in Brampton last night. Peel police say the woman was hit by the truck while crossing the intersection at Queen Street and McLaughlin Road just before 6 o'clock. She was taken to hospital where she died from her injuries. The driver was stopped a short distance away by police who are working to determine whether the driver knew that the pedestrian had been struck.
Circumstances surrounding the collision are under investigation, and part of that is obviously the question that we have, the investigators in the Major Collision Bureau, are whether or not the driver of that cube van did realize that they had been involved in a collision. The driver of the cube van was stopped by police who happened to be in the area. So that'll obviously be part of the investigation that will unfold.
Peel police are asking for witnesses or anyone with dash cam footage to come forward.
One person was sent to hospital after a multi-vehicle crash in North York last night. This happened on the ramp from Weston Road to the westbound 401 just after 8:30. OPP say up to 4 vehicles were involved. Paramedics say a man was taken to hospital with serious injuries. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. In Halton Region, police are looking for 5 suspects after a smash and grab robbery at a Burlington pawn shop. Shortly before 5 p.m. yesterday, a gray Honda CRV reversed through the front door of a buy and sell city location on Fairview Street. Police say 4 to 5 suspects entered the store and smashed display cases with hammers before making off with several items of jewelry. The CRV, which police say was stolen from Toronto, was left behind, and the suspects left the scene in a dark-colored sedan. No injuries were reported. The business was assessed for structural damage and has since been deemed safe.
At Toronto City Hall, Mayor Olivia Chow must release her version of the 2026 budget by this Sunday. February 1st is the deadline for Chow to publish her changes to the staff-suggested spending plan. At a housing cooperative in Midtown today, the mayor highlighted budget funding designed to help thousands of vulnerable seniors age safely at home. Some of the measures include expanded access to air conditioning, rental supplements, and supportive cleaning and nursing services.
They live in quiet desperation and face long waits for home care, seniors housing that is affordable, or long-term care, or PSW, personal support workers that can come and help them. They go to payday loans and get into serious debt, or they turn down the heat. They don't go out and face loneliness because they don't have the money for public transit. We as a society have a duty to assist them to age at home with respect, security, and dignity.
The mayor today confirmed that she does intend to limit the property tax increase to 2.2%. Toronto City Council will vote on Chow's budget on February 10th. Well, CTV News has learned more about what goes on behind the scenes at one of Toronto's most popular music venues by obtaining a confidential lease agreement it has with the province.
As CTV's John Woodward reports, critics say it tells us a lot about other controversial deals at Ontario Place.
The Black Keys played what was then Budweiser Stage in the waning days of summer last year. Artists welcomed in part because of their talent and also because they met the criteria in the venue's lease with the province of Ontario, obtained by CTV News through a Freedom of Information request. The venue, run by Live Nation, can't show an artist that has contravened the Criminal Code of Canada or the Ontario Human Rights Code during a past performance. Live Nation also has to keep some areas of the storied venue open to the public, even as it shifts its name to the RBC Amphitheatre, a name the province can use as well for a fee of just $1. One thing the lease forbids, to use any of its land as a thermal spa, clearly a reference to the controversial build next door, the Therme Spa, a centerpiece of Premier Doug Ford's plan for the island and one that has raised the most concerns from critics.
They're spending a huge amount of money prepping the site for that. They've, cut down 800 mature trees and flattened the land there.
A lot of that money is going into a parking garage. And when it comes to parking, the leases treat the spa and the concert venue very differently. To the concert venue, the lease says the landlord shall be under no obligation to construct such parking structure. But the Therme Spa lease says the province shall provide 1,200 spaces. And if it doesn't, it will pay Therme $5 a day per spot, an amount that adds up to about $2.2 million a year, more than Therme's initial annual rent. Therme said in a statement the parking clause was an incentive to help drive momentum to completion by the agreed-upon date. The government says the contracts aren't comparable. The opposition wants an explanation.
That's something that needs to be investigated. We are going to keep digging on this because preferential treatment is illegal.
When construction of the RBC Amphitheatre is finished by 2030, bands will play for at least the 30-year term of its lease, with an option to extend for 15 years. Therme's lease, by comparison, is 95 years long. John Woodward, CTV News.
There are some major subway service disruptions on the TTC's weekend schedule, so crews can carry out planned maintenance. Line 1 trains will not operate between St. George and St. Andrew stations from 11 tonight all the way to the start of service Monday morning. Wheel-Trans service will be available, but shuttle buses won't be running. The TTC says customers can instead take surface routes or transfer to the Yonge side of the line. Replacement buses will be running along Shepherd Saturday and Sunday as crews carry out signal work on Line 4. And a heads up for drivers, sections of the Don Valley Parkway and Gardner Expressway will be closed this weekend for infrastructure work. The southbound DVP will be closed starting at Bayview, while the eastbound lanes of the Gardner will be shut from Bay Street and traffic will be diverted onto city streets. Metrolink says this closure is needed so the first section of the future Lower Don Bridge can be put in place, a key step towards building the Ontario Line subway.
The Federal Court of Appeal has ruled the ban on single-use plastics in Canada will remain in place. The appeal court has overturned a lower court decision from 2023 that ruled that Ottawa overstepped in designating all plastic manufactured items as toxic. Today, a 3-judge panel said the government's decision to make that designation was reasonable. The ban includes the manufacture and import of 6 types of single-use plastics.
A mix of business and politics now. Prime Minister Carney is applauding Donald Trump's pick to chair the U.S. Federal Reserve. This photo shows Kevin Warsh with Carney back in 2010. At the time, Warsh was a member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, and our future PM was the governor of the Bank of Canada. Today, Carney said Warsh is a fantastic choice to lead the world's most important central bank at this crucial time. He has been nominated by the U.S. president, but must still be approved by the Senate. Meantime, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is set to face a big test tonight in Calgary.
Party delegates will be voting on whether he should keep his job just hours after he delivers what could be one of the most important speeches of his political career. CTV's Jeremy Charon reports.
Well, the busiest day of this Calgary Conservative Convention now underway here, with all eyes on a big leadership vote this evening. Delegates here selected to represent Conservative members from ridings across the country will vote later today on whether Pierre Poilievre should remain the leader of the federal Conservative Party. This leadership test comes as a result of the Conservative Party's loss in the last federal election. It is widely expected that Mr. Poilievre will achieve a positive result. We've been speaking with delegates, some of whom know exactly where they stand already. Others aren't quite sure yet.
Do you support Mr. Poilievre as the leader?
Oh yeah, most definitely, 100%.
It's still, you know, when you go behind that curtain, it's still your private franchise, and you decide as you will at that time. So that's why I came to the convention to get a sense of what's happening.
Now, we're told Mr. Poilievre met with his caucus this morning ahead of his leadership review. Conservative Senator Denise Batters was at that meeting.
I'm glad to see that Pierre has taken that part of our process very seriously because, as you may recall, after the previous election, I had to bring a petition to try to force pressure on Mr. O'Toole to have a leadership review, and that's what I was asking for. And meanwhile, Pierre not only has the review, but has it at a very early stage.
Now, several Conservative MPs have taken the stage behind me here to address the crowd. All of them have hit on two kind of key themes. The first being what the party believes to be a positive result in the last election, a success in the last election, by increasing their seat count, despite the fact, of course, they did not form government. The other is that all of them were clear that they believe the best path forward for the Conservative Party is with Pierre Poilievre at the helm. Jeremy Sherrill, CTV News, Calgary.
The U.S. Justice Department has opened a federal civil rights probe into the death of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. The local resident was fatally shot by Border Patrol officers Saturday. The department has not said why it is launching the FBI-led investigation, but insists it is looking at everything that would shed light on what happened. Officials say there will not be a similar probe following the January 7th death of Renee Good, who was shot by an immigration and customs enforcement officer in Minneapolis, saying there must be circumstances and facts that warrant an investigation.
Newly released U.S. government documents show Canada denied entry to Jeffrey Epstein in 2018. The late convicted sex offender contacted the Canadian consulate in Los Angeles. He was seeking a temporary resident permit so he could attend a conference in Vancouver. The consulate wrote back saying that Epstein was inadmissible because of his conviction of an indictable offense. The correspondence is among about 3.5 million pages of documents related to Epstein that were released by the U.S. Justice Department today. In the Middle East, Israel says it will reopen a key border crossing on Sunday. The Israelis seized the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt in May of 2024. Reopening it was an important requirement under the first phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to stop the fighting between Israel and Hamas. But cargo will not be allowed through, only people. Israel has not said how many will be allowed to cross per day. The Israelis say the return of residents from Egypt to the Gaza Strip will be permitted in coordination with the Egyptian government.
Ukraine and Russia said today they have halted strikes on each other's energy infrastructure following an appeal by the United States. Moscow says it has agreed to U.S. President Donald Trump's request to halt strikes for a week on energy facilities. The attacks have knocked out power and heating to hundreds of buildings in Kyiv in bitterly cold weather. But the Kremlin has indicated the moratorium will end on Sunday. Ukraine says Russia conducted virtually no strikes in the past 24 hours, but says Moscow had changed its strategy and was now hitting logistical points, notably rail junctions.
In Venezuela, the acting president has signed a law that opens the country's oil sector to privatization. It positions the South American nation to lure foreign investment needed to revamp its long-struggling oil industry. As the bill was being passed yesterday, the U.S. Treasury Department officially began to ease sanctions on Venezuelan oil and expanded the ability of American energy companies to operate there. This less than a month after the seizure of then-President Nicolas Maduro in a U.S. military attack.
Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen is going to have to wait a little bit longer for his first trip to the moon. NASA has delayed liftoff of the Artemis 2 mission by a couple of days. It was planned for next Friday, but it has been pushed back to no earlier than February 8th because of near freezing temperatures forecast for the launch site. A crucial fueling test is now expected on Monday as the crew remains in routine quarantine in Houston. The 4 astronauts will circle the moon and return home in preparation for landing a different crew on the lunar surface in 2027.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, we hear about many scams here at CTV News, and a lot of them are connected with Facebook and other social media sites. Now, a new report says that Meta is making billions of dollars running fraudulent ads on its platforms. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
And we do continue this below seasonal stretch as we head in towards the end of January, which is this weekend. We do step into a brand new month with new norms. We will get close to that at least for one day before we dip back into some cold air. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast.
If you're on social media, you will see ads for all kinds of things, from weight loss products to deals on clothing to investment ideas.
But many of these ads are actually scams, and a new investigation finds Meta is earning billions of dollars connected to fraudulent activity. Here's Pat Foran in Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Natalie and Michelle. Meta is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. It says it fights to keep scams off its platforms, but many appear to be getting through. A new report states that 10% of its total revenue comes from fraud and illegal activity. We interviewed a woman who lost $1.7 million in a cryptocurrency investment scam. She invested her life savings after seeing a fake Elon Musk video on Facebook.
I don't have no retirement saving. Everything is gone.
There are many products featured on Facebook and Instagram that you should be cautious about buying or even believing they're legitimate.
We found ads and posts that promoted the use of some supplements that are dangerous or even illegal.
Consumer Reports says people have complained their credit card information has been stolen trying to buy products on Instagram that never arrived. And sometimes when they do arrive, they look nothing like what was advertised.
People reached out to us. Yeah, I saw this ad on Facebook. Seemed too good to be true. And guess what? It was.
Reuters says its investigation found that a large number of ads on Meta's social media sites were scams served up to users by Meta's algorithm.
We always knew there were some fraudulent ads there, but they did a deep dive and said that up to 10% of the company's global revenue was coming for ads for scams or for other illegal activity.
According to Reuters, Meta was aware of the problem but undercut efforts to stop it while projecting roughly $16 billion in earnings from scam ads. In a statement to Consumer Reports, Meta said, "We aggressively fight fraud and scams," and said the documents Reuters relied on present a selective view that distorts Meta's approach to fraud. In response to claims that 10% of its revenue was generated by scam ads, Meta says that number was based on a rough estimate, and subsequent audits found many of the ads were not violating its terms and conditions. So what should you do? Short of swearing off social media, take steps to protect yourself, be skeptical, and if an ad looks suspicious, report it. Treat ads for unbelievable deals with extreme caution, as chances are they're scams. And Meta says it doesn't want scam content on its platforms, but said criminals are becoming more sophisticated and complex. Still, the report said worldwide Meta users see about 15 billion scam ads every day. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
We have developing news from Brampton tonight. The CTV News chopper is above the scene right now of a shooting near Dartford Road and Balmoral Drive. Peel police say an adult male was shot around 5:30 this evening and has since died. Police say the scene appears to be isolated to a residence and they are not searching for any suspects at this time. Officers are asking members of the public to avoid the area. We will have more on this developing story tonight at 11:30.
Certainly a large police presence there, and for anybody, that investigation just getting underway, who has to work outside for hours on end tonight. It is extremely cold, enough to warrant a cold warning.
It is the kind of weather you really need to be dressed for. Just a matter of seconds, your fingers can really start to freeze out there in the cold today.
You do lose dexterity very quickly when it gets this cold. So if you are planning on spending any time outside, you have to really think about your layers, maybe limiting your time outdoors. It's important to still get out and get active, but maybe set a time limit on it. Maybe not spending a couple of hours out there if you can help it. If you work outside, obviously layer up accordingly and think about safety first. We are still under that cold warning, and that's not changing as we head through the overnight. So just Take care as you spend any time outdoors. But at least we've held on to the sunshine for the bulk of our days, and that's going to continue as we head in towards the weekend and through to the first few days of February into next week. A beautiful but clear and very cool night ahead of us. We're not looking at much in the way of any active weather over the next week or so, but it doesn't mean we escape some dicey conditions when it comes to all that cold air. It does add to the slipperiness on the roads and the sidewalks, and it does hinder some of that cleanup effort when it comes to the snow because it just becomes like cement on the streets. Temperature-wise tonight, those wind chill values really not letting up at all. Still feeling in that minus 25 to minus 30 range right throughout the evening. Maybe the good news is it's not terribly windy. A fairly light northwesterly wind to start the night, and it becomes northerly into the start of the day tomorrow. Minus 11 right now, feeling like minus 20. Everybody gets a touch of this cold, cold air as we get ready to wrap up the month of January this weekend. Overnight dropping down to a low of minus 18, feeling like minus 25. That's why we're under that warning. We're not seeing much in the way of relief until we get in towards kind of that midpoint of next week with those overnight lows getting anywhere close to that seasonal norm. Today, we had a daytime high below seasonal. Tomorrow, much the same. We don't get back to that point until later on next week. But at least until your Saturday, you have sunshine out there. Not much in the way of any snow. Finally, a bit of a relief from that lake effect snow machine. We'll see a few maybe light flurries along those eastern shorelines of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, but it's really nothing that it's going to impact your day or add to that kind of slowing efforts when it comes to cleaning up the snow that you already have. Cloudy through the rest of our evening as we get into your Saturday. Brilliant sunshine. If you're a skier, a snowboarder, cross-country skiing, you want to get out and enjoy it, do so, but just make sure you're layered up accordingly and covering up any exposed skin. Not much to write home about into your Sunday either. We slip into February with a little bit of sunshine, but we don't really see a return to seasonal until we get in towards next week, so something to consider. It is a fresh weekend. I'm going to try to say it in a positive way, a fresh and biting and stinging weekend when it comes to your temperatures, but at least we have that sunshine out there. Heading in towards Sunday, we kick off a brand new month, close-ish to seasonal. We're getting there. The closest we are really going to be is Monday and Tuesday of next week. For the overnight low, Monday, you're pretty much on seasonal, but that's it. For your daytime high on Tuesday, pretty much at seasonal, but that's it. The good news is at least we're sunny until Friday next week, where we watch for another round of snow. Michelle, back to you.
That groundhog to bring us some good news. Thank you, Jess. Well, still to come, delivering chemotherapy to the brain without harmful radiation. A Toronto technique is gaining ground as a treatment for childhood cancer. We'll have those details in moments.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
2 decades after it was first used on a toddler at Sick Kids Hospital, a medical technique designed to protect babies' brains from radiation is being scaled up nationwide.
It involves implanting a plastic device beneath the patient's scalp to deliver medication into the brain. Our health reporter Pauline Chan explains.
Remember of that.
To be honest, the only thing I remember was like waking up in the morning just to get like the pokes in my Omaya.
CJ Brown was just 2 when he was diagnosed with a lethal brain tumor known as ATRT. And when he didn't respond fully to surgery and chemotherapy, Dr. Annie Huang faced a dilemma. She could use radiation to destroy the tumor in his brain, but she had seen the devastating effects radiation typically had on a young, rapidly developing brain.
They're completely dependent. So we do them a disservice. We've cured their tumor, but we've left them with a life that's not what they should have had.
But she had seen good results in leukemia patients of a different technique, and she hoped she could modify it to get chemotherapy directly to the brain and cerebrospinal fluid.
I was just hoping, to buy them some time.
The technique, using something called an Omaya reservoir, bought CJ not just time, but a healthy, normal childhood.
The kid's looking at you, having lunch, whatever, and you pop it and you put the chemo in. So that way they don't have to be anesthetized.
Now they're beginning to use this approach in centers across Canada.
We've now started to extrapolate to other types of cancers that arise in these very young children. So the majority are still going to be ATRT, but we have some other tumors called ETMR, which is somewhat of a different flavor, but also, in fact, more aggressive than ATRT.
Dr. Huang says more sophisticated technology now is allowing them to better identify and track the cancers and their response to the therapy.
Well, it feels good for me to know it helps other kids.
And CJ, now a healthy, cancer-free 20-year-old, is happy his childhood challenges have inspired hope for others. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A new paper out of York University is offering some hope towards efforts to reduce the amount of so-called forever chemicals in our environment. Forever chemicals are human-made compounds that don't break down in the water or atmosphere, prompting questions about potential health impacts. Between 2018 and 2024, researchers at York University tracked the makeup of the dust on top of the campus's engineering building. They found levels of a substance known as the tiniest forever chemical dropped when overall emissions levels plummeted in 2020 due to the COVID pandemic. While levels crept back up post-pandemic, senior author and professor Cora Young says the findings show there's a way to pinpoint which emissions are responsible and how to regulate them. Meanwhile, a study in Cell Reports Medicine says researchers in China have identified a new way to tell when a patient slides into unconsciousness while under general anesthesia. Right now, that's usually identified by a patient's physical response. But for this new study, scientists placed electrodes on 31 patients before surgery to read their brain activity. They say it was clear when a patient lost awareness as activity desynchronized between key regions of the brain, and the findings could lead to better fine-tuning of anesthetic doses going forward.
We now know what the most streamed movie of 2025 was, and it probably won't come as a surprise. According to ratings firm Nielsen, K-pop Demon Hunters was the clear winner for the year, even though it only debuted in June. Looking at figures for just the U.S., the animated fantasy musical was watched for more than 20.6 billion minutes, or about 207 million times. Among other achievements, it's also up for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song at the Oscars.
K-pop Demon Hunters, yes, is also up for several awards and honors at this weekend's Grammy Awards, which feature several crowded categories.
She a fan, he a flop, they just wanna kumbaya, nah.
Kendrick Lamar is leading the field with 9 nominations. Those include the top 3 awards, Album, Record, and Song of the Year. He's joined in those races by Lady Gaga, who tied for the second most noms with a career best of 7. Also competing in all those top categories are big names like Sabrina Carpenter and Bad Bunny. The 68th Annual Grammy Awards air Sunday at 8 p.m.
Still to come tonight, crosstown concerns. Transit officials play coy on the Eglinton LRT's opening date as more questions swirl over whether it's ready to run.
The TSX took a tumble today, declining more than 1,000 points. BNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez has more.
A steep stumble for the TSX. It was swept up in that downward spiral of gold and silver prices. Spot gold had its biggest drop in decades. On Thursday, an ounce was selling for $5,450 U.S. By the end of the trading day today, it was under $4,900. The price of silver fell more than 25%. Both move opposite to the U.S. dollar, which gained strength after the American president announced a new pick for U.S. Federal Reserve Chair. The Canadian economy was at a standstill in November. Statistics Canada points to a small decline in the production of goods, which was offset by a small move up in services. The manufacturing sector was down 1.3% in November, in part because of that semiconductor shortage that limited production at a major vehicle assembly plant. Tariffs are a big weight on the auto sector, and they have cost CN Rail as well, $350 million last year. The railway still managed to squeeze out a revenue gain of 2%, but its 2026 forecast disappointed analysts, and that sent the stock down. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 73.46. West Texas Intermediate today is up to 65.80. Western Canadian Select up over $2 to 50.63. And the TSX lost almost 1,100 points to end the week under 32,000. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Well, it was a tough day in the market for Bombardier following a new threat from the U.S. president over certification and tariffs.
Shares for the Canadian-made aircraft company dropped as much as 9% at one point. CTV senior political correspondent Mike Lecouteur has more from Ottawa.
Bombardier's Global 8000 is billed as the world's fastest civil aircraft since the Concorde. But it could be grounded in the U.S. as President Donald Trump targets the Quebec company as apparent retribution over the certification of an American jet in Canada. On Truth Social, Trump wrote the U.S. was decertifying their Bombardier Global Expresses and all aircraft made in Canada until such time as Gulfstream, a great American company, is fully certified. Gulfstream is a direct competitor of Bombardier, and industry experts point out there are reasons Canada has been holding off.
The U.S. has certified the Gulfstream 700 and the 800 with exemptions to look at that aircraft not being certified for very cold weather operations because of fuel line problems.
In response to the threat of decertifying Canadian aircraft, Bombardier said in a statement, thousands of private and civilian jets built in Canada fly in the U.S. every day. We hope this is quickly resolved to avoid a significant impact to air traffic and the flying public. But it remains unclear if the U.S. president even has the authority to decertify aircraft.
The only way that the type certificate can be revoked is if there is a safety issue with the aircraft.
Now, this is just the latest salvo in the ongoing trade war, which has seen Trump ramp up his rhetoric against Canada following the Prime Minister's visit to China.
You can't look at China as the answer.
In a statement about the threat, Minister Steve McKinnon said Transport Canada officials are in communication with their U.S. counterparts, and the Canadian government is actively working on this situation. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
Another familiar product is set to depart grocery store shelves. Minute Maid frozen juice from concentrate is set to be discontinued across Canada and the U.S. this spring. Parent company Coca-Cola says it's exiting the frozen can category because of shifting consumer preferences. Last summer, it was announced that 38 jobs would be slashed at Minute Maid's plant in Peterborough as a result of the switch. But the union says that figure was negotiated down to 6.
Meanwhile, one of the biggest celebrations of Toronto's culinary scene is now underway. Winterlicious kicked off today. More than 240 local eateries are offering up special menus with 3-course meals listed at a fixed price. And the costs range from $20 to $55 for lunch and $25 to $75 for dinner. A full list of restaurants taking part can be found on the city's website. Winterlicious runs through to February 12th.
With a potential opening date for the Eglinton Crosstown on the horizon, officials today faced questions over reported issues with the long-delayed transit line. A source this week told CTV News the line is slated to open on February 8th. The province hasn't disputed that date, although the TTC hasn't confirmed it either. Today, TTC Chair Jamal Myers was asked about the report in the Globe and Mail that suggested issues with the LRT's emergency brakes could delay the line's long-awaited debut.
Metrolinx has worked through the safety critical items that the TTC identified that would be required to open the line. However, we did find an issue with the emergency brake issues. The issue has been resolved. Metrolinx found that issue. So I will defer to TTC as to when we make announcements as to the opening. But yes, we are on track.
Myers also reaffirmed the Crosstown will have signal priority upgrades on its overground portions after issues seen with the Finch West LRT, but he said they won't be fully implemented until the spring.
Meanwhile, the province says it's almost completed more than $100 million worth of rail upgrades to get the Northlander train back up and running. Earlier this month, we got a look at the first of 3 train sets for the revived service. It will travel 740 kilometers to Timmins with a rail connection to Cochrane. The train was replaced by buses in 2012, but the province says the province is bringing it back to better connect thousands of people in northeastern Ontario to things like healthcare, education, and economic opportunities. The new Northlander is expected to welcome passengers sometime this year.
In sports, the Toronto Raptors are back on the road tonight, but only for 1 game.
4 in a row. These are the 2 longest OG.
Toronto was dealt a 27-point loss against the Knicks at Scotiabank Arena on Wednesday. That ended a 4-game winning streak for the Raps. This evening, they are in Orlando to take on the Magic, who are 3.5 games back of Toronto. The Raptors return home Sunday against Utah.
And he's going to drive on Brandon Miller, gliding to the basket, and there's a new Maverick rookie record for points in a game.
19-year-old Cooper Flagg got 49 points last night for the Dallas Mavericks. That broke the NBA record for a teen held since 1980 by Clifford Robinson. He also surpassed LeBron James by becoming the first player to have 2 40-point games in his first season.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Well, if you are venturing out tonight, it feels like the Arctic, -11, and just double that with the wind chill.
It is a great night to curl up on the couch under a blanket, staying warm inside. What do you think, Jess?
It sounds like we're talking about like a holiday movie. And it's going to be cold, but we are really getting into the time of year where we are turning the corners. We just have to get through the next week or two first. Cloudy out there right now, but overall relatively quiet. It's just cool. We're still looking at those wind chill values that are wicked, between -25 and -30. And as we get in towards the rest of our evening, yes, it is cool, but just make sure if you do head out that you are layered up accordingly. But you know what? We're almost in February. Almost spring.
That little rodent there is our sign that there will be an end. Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it. That's it for us, but be sure to join Heather Butts at 11 tonight for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CB24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here, thank you for watching and have a wonderful weekend.